mundo. Happy about that. If we can get that going. This poll question up. Turn the volume down on the tablet. The poll question. Let me go back out and come back in. Does it not? Here we go. Let me hear me. Okay, can y'all hear me? Let me check. Okay, can y'all hear me? Yes. All right, we're good to go. Okay, you will need note-taking materials for this live. Got a lot of information to cover in a short time. Got a long way to go in a short time to get there. Like Smokey and the Bandit. My hair is crooked. Okay. Well, first thing we're going to do after you gather your note-taking materials, feel free to answer the poll question. We are going to inhale and exhale to let the brain know that we are here to use it, to learn from it, and to give it what it needs so that it can give us what we need in order for us to succeed. So on your own, you're going to inhale and exhale 3 deep cleansing breaths just to quiet the mind. I am Dr. Donna Louise Thomas-Rodgers, daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout. Today's topic is solicit feedback. For those of you watching on the replay, I spent many months reviewing giving an overall perspective of the principles of real leadership, and then I went into great detail explaining each principle of real leadership to the point where I defined each individual word within the principle of real leadership. That was the tell me portion, and now we are at the show me portion. And so my objective with the review or overview of this next go round is to tie the principle of real leadership to the parts or the regions of the brain that you are using in order for you to be able to access your best every day, day in and day out. There are 6.8 billion adults in the world, and there are 6.8 billion unaccountable adults in the world because you were never taught how to use your brain. You're expected to use it every day, but you went through elementary school, middle school, high school, college, even advanced degrees. And unless you are actually studying, I said good morning, unless you are actually studying the brain, you don't know how your brain functions, and therefore you can't use your brain to your benefits. And the example that I've been using recently is, imagine if you have a car and someone keeps saying all the benefits to the car, or this is how the car functions, but no one teaches you how to drive that car. Now you just have a piece of machinery that in theory has all of these benefits and can do all these amazing things, but you can't drive the car. So my objective is for you to learn how to use your brain so that you can use your brain to create unlimited neural pathways for you to become your best. And how we do that is through the theory of personal accountability, which is PA plus 45 degrees equals B, which is personal accountability every day at a 45-degree angle, which equals your best, and the 74 principles of real leadership. You put that together, that's neuroprobability. But how do you get there? Neurogenesis is the creation of new neurons in your amazing brain. Yesterday, we found out that you have 86 billion neurons, so that allows you to be able to create synaptic connections day in and day out. There are 74 principles of real leadership. You have 86 billion neurons. You have the ability to create neuroprobability. It is there. It's your objective or your responsibility to tap into that on the daily basis. So we are at number 3, principle of real leadership. Let me write that down. Number 3, solicit feedback. And so the quote in my book is that feedback is the gift that keeps on giving. When you actually get feedback. Now, what I'd like to do is give a qualifier here so that we are all on the same page. Feedback is not criticism. Criticism is negative. I don't care if you put constructive in front of it, it is negative. And even if you look it up now, if you look it up on any of the AI platforms, it'll say, well, if it's constructive criticism, then it works. But if it's destructive, no, it's all destructive. Criticism is a negative word. Criticism attacks you as a person. It's now trying to be packaged as feedback, but they are not the same. It's the difference between cane sugar and artificial sugar. Good morning, Lola. And so feedback talks about performance and behaviors. Performance and behaviors. Those are things that you can actually improve. Criticism is an attack for you personally, and that's why it's so hard to receive it. So starting right now, make the distinction. So if someone is attacking you personally, they are criticizing you. If someone is giving you feedback, which comes with a solution, now you can listen because that is actually going to make you better. So again, solicit feedback. Feedback is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, how do we get here? As I mentioned earlier, neurogenesis is the creation of new neurons in your brain. So it's like, wow, I got all these neurons. What do I do with them? Well, you create a process called synaptic connections, and that's neuroplasticity, and that wires your brain to allow you to create these neural pathways for you to have skills and tactics, experience, and everything that allows you to function at a very high level. You put those together, combine it with the principles of real leadership and the theory of personal accountability, you get to neuromobility. And where does all this magic happen? Or how do you use it on the day-to-day basis? You use it through your working memory. And just as a review, your working memory is the brain's ability to hold and manipulate information temporarily while performing cognitive tasks like rehearsing, learning, and comprehension. And it is a core part of the executive function and plays a vital role in your decision making, your problem solving, and your focused attention. And we also learned a couple of days ago as well that the working memory is engaged in dozens, if not hundreds, of times per hour during your waking hours. So you are using your working memory dozens, if not hundreds of times per hour of every waking hour of every day of your life. So whether you're brushing your teeth, cooking, attending a meeting, your brain is continually using its working memory to bridge the gap between perception, action, and reasoning. So that means that if you are awake, your working memory is always working. And that's why it's your responsibility to give your working memory what it needs so that you can capitalize off of it day in and day out. Now, what parts of the brain do you use to solicit feedback? And as a reminder, we are using the show portion. So I'm showing you, here's a visible diagram. I didn't really like how they use the font today, but hey, it is what it is when you're using chat, right? You take what you can get at 4 o'clock in the morning. So what parts of the brain do you use to solicit feedback? I'm glad you asked that question, Lola. Here they are. Good morning, Regina. Good morning. So the parts of the brain that you use when you're soliciting feedback. First of all, when soliciting feedback, you're actively engaging in multiple regions of the brains. Parts, regions. I say parts because if I say regions, it's like, oh, that's technical, but you can use those terms interchangeably. So it's tied to communication, self-awareness, emotional regulation, and social cognition. And I'm going to say those regions again: communication, self-awareness, emotional regulation, and social cognition. Now, if you've noticed that as we keep talking about these principles of real leadership, what's the one thing that keeps appearing? Y'all see that? You see this right here? The one thing that keeps appearing is the doggone amygdala. This amygdala is causing problems for your learning. This is the third day, and here we go with this emotional regulation. You got to regulate that thing. You got to go down there in the temporal lobe and say, listen, amygdala, okay, AG, listen to me. You causing problems. You keep shutting off access to the frontal lobe. Now sit your ass down and do what you're supposed to do instead of what you want to do. Stop acting like a doggone 2.5-year-old. So everything, this little almond-shaped thing is causing all kind of problems. Just think about if you have an ingrown toenail. Your whole life hurt if you got an ingrown toenail. And that's what's happening when this amygdala is not in check. Okay, so the first area we're going to discuss is the prefrontal cortex. Call that the PFC. So the function is it's in the executive function, and it's responsible for planning, decision making, self-monitoring, and all those amazing things. So what is the role of the PFC in your soliciting feedback. It helps you elevate your performance. So to decide to ask for feedback and plan on how to act on it. So you are this prefrontal cortex right here, that PFC. When you solicit feedback, the PFC is like, uh-oh, we about to get some information. We about to be able to do better. All right, go get that information. We like that. And then the sub regions that are not on here are the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and that organizes the structure of your request. So when you get ready to ask this, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to take this and we're going to organize it in a way that we can use it. And then you have the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and that weighs the emotional consequences and the social risk. So you take that feedback in, and the prefrontal cortex breaks it up and say, okay, how can we use this, and what is the impact of this, the social risk or the emotional consequences from this? I'm going to get a divorce. Oh my goodness, what is that going to do? And now you have to weigh the pros and cons of that. So those are the regions from the prefrontal cortex perspective that take place when you are soliciting feedback. Now, number 2 is you're using the anterior cingulate. And as you can see, it's up here, and it's the anterior cingulate cortex. We call that the ACC. Now, the function is that it monitors conflict and error detection. That is the job of it. It's like, okay, does this make sense? Is this right? Is this wrong? And any types of errors or conflicts of information coming in. Now, the role of it is that it senses discrepancies between your intent and your outcome, and promoting the desire to seek improvement through feedback. So I didn't know a lot about the brain. So now I'm giving myself feedback and I'm saying, look, you realize that this is the issue why people can't hold themselves personally accountable. So now you're going to have to go and get information. Otherwise, you're just going to keep saying, y'all need to be accountable. Y'all need to be accountable. And that's no bueno. But I'm seeking improvement. So I am scavenging and scouring the earth to get this information, so that any discrepancies that there are, and I actually have a discrepancy later that I'm going to show y'all here when I get to the next page, so you will understand the thing that was the conflict that was taking place in my brain back last October. Okay, so number 3 is our almond-shaped amygdala. Hey, amygdala, how you doing? So the function is for the amygdala is supposed to process emotional needs, especially fear and anxiety. When there is an actual threat, when there is a real saber-toothed tiger coming towards you, the amygdala is supposed to go, shit, run, go seek safety. But because of negativity bias, we wake up every day looking for the threat. And now we is the threat. I ain't seen a saber-tooth tiger in my lifetime. Maybe you have. If you have, let me know. But I've not seen one charging at me while I'm in Sprouts trying to get my almonds and my walnuts. Hasn't happened. Ran into a couple Karens or two, but that's why I said we is the threat. We is the problem. And so now we just got this hijacked amygdala thing that we're going through every single day. So that's why it's our responsibility to regulate the amygdala and say, nope, that's just a Karen. That's not a saber-toothed tiger. Now, what happens with the amygdala is that it triggers nervousness and fear around being judged or rejected. And this is why asking for feedback can feel emotionally risky. So you want to solicit the feedback, but it's like, ooh, y'all gonna think I'm stupid. Oh my God, you might make me feel bad. But that's because criticism is attached to the amygdala. So you think you're asking for feedback because that's what it feels like, but it's really you asking unaccountable people for criticism, and that's why the amygdala is hijacked. But when you actually ask people who hold themselves personally accountable and have full use of their frontal lobe for feedback, the anxiety is going to be less. It's still going to be there because it's like, ooh, I don't know this, but I need this in order for me to be technically competent, which is one of the 74 principles for leadership. So there is this apprehension there because remember, the brain likes comfort. It wants to know. That's how it's hardwired for that. And it's your responsibility to say, listen, we got to get this working memory working. So we're going to have to override this fear and go ahead and get our information. Number 4 is the insular cortex right here. You can see it. And you can see it on there. Okay, because my screen is different than yours. And so that function is awareness of internal states and empathy. Internal states and empathy. And so the role of it in asking for feedback is to help you tune into your discomfort and the emotional tones of others, making your request for the feedback more tactful and genuine. So think about it this way: feedback is a two-way street. So if you're asking someone for feedback and they're ready to give it to you, if you like, that ain't what I wanted to hear, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Now they're like, whoo, now you've hijacked their amygdala because they've given you some performance focused feedback and you get told what you wanted to hear, and now they feel bad. So they're not going to want to give you feedback. Like I mentioned yesterday, when under Be Coachable, you couldn't coach me, you couldn't give me no feedback or nothing. If you wasn't telling me I was great, wonderful, and phenomenal, fuck you. I don't want to hear nothing else you got to say. But how was I going to improve? How was I going to get better? So that helps you with the discomfort of listening to. So people feedback is just a mirror. It's just being held up to you and it's saying, here's how you're performing, here's how you're behaving, and here's what you can do about it to improve. So don't get mad at the person holding up the mirror because you don't like the man in the mirror that you actually see. That shit's on you, and you got to do something about it if you want to become your best. Okay, and then number 5, and I've been practicing this all morning because it's two lobes put together. We're going to see with my Midwestern accent and my nice little high cheekbones if I say this correctly. Here it is. Number 5, it is the temporal parietal junction. The temporal parietal junction, and it's down here. And I'm going to spell it for you because I really don't like how they outlined that this morning. It is TEMPOROPARIETAL. TEMPOROPARIETAL. It is temporal parietal junction, TPJ, and it's the where the temporal lobe and the parietal lobe meet, which is why it's on both sides of this diagram. Okay, so the function of this is the perspective taking and social understanding. Perspective taking and social understanding, and the role in which it plays in regards to feedback, soliciting feedback, is this: is it allows you to consider how the other person may perceive your request, helping you frame it respectfully and clearly. So when you take that into consideration with the insular cortex or the insula, you put that together, it's saying, I'm going to ask this person for some feedback. Let me make sure that I am open to it. I am respectful. Because, like, well, what the fuck is wrong with me? That's not, that's not how you asking for feedback. It's like, well, help me understand why every time I speak, you do like this. So you're literally understanding and considering how the other person may feel about your request, and it's helping you to frame it so that you actually can get the information from them that you actually want, because feedback is for improvement in your performance and your behavior. So, in summary, when you solicit feedback, you are essentially using a blend of thinking. So, you're using the prefrontal cortex, you're using, so for your thinking, you're using the prefrontal cortex. For your emotional brain, you are using the amygdala and the insula, and for your social brain, you are using the TPJ, which is the temporal parietal junction of the brain. That's why it's a junction, because it's coming together. And so what this allows you to do is reflect on your actions, regulate your emotions, your emotions, communicate effectively, and then interpret the response with openness and awareness. So, when you are soliciting feedback, you are also using the principle of real leadership to communicate effectively. You're also using the principle of real leadership. If you don't know, ask. And you're also using the principle of real leadership, listen. Okay? So, and then be technically competent as well as a principle of real leadership, because once you get the feedback, you're going to use that to improve your performance or your behavior. So let me review those again. The parts of the brain or the regions of the brain that you're using when you solicit feedback are the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, which is the ACC, the amygdala, the insular cortex, which is referred to as the insula, and then you're using the temporal parietal junction, which is the TPJ. What questions do you have about the 5 regions of the brain that you are using when you solicit feedback? And I will move out of the way so you can see it completely. And again, what questions do you have? Okay, I see yours, Regina. Nola has no questions. See my ray of sunshine on me. Can you review the summary read parts of the brain used for? Okay, so when you solicit feedback, you're essentially using a blend of thinking, and so that is the thinking brain, basically. So you're using the PFC, the prefrontal cortex. You're using the emotional brain. So that's the amygdala and the insula. And the social brain, which is the TPJ, temporal parietal junction. And this allows you to reflect on your actions, regulate your emotions, communicate effectively, and interpret the response with openness and awareness. And let me know if you have it. Good morning for those of you who are joining. I am Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers. I teach adults how to use their brains so that they can become their best using neuroprobability. If you plan on staying, go ahead and gather some note-taking materials. You want to learn how to use your amazing brain because it is amazing. Okay, next section. What are the brain activities? What are some brain activities to solicit feedback? So the interesting thing this morning is that I typed in initially, because I use ChatGPT and Grok as well, is I typed in, what are some activities to solicit feedback? And then I looked at them and I was like, because when you use chat, it'll put a little brain next to the things or a little graphic of what it is that it's telling me. If it's a checklist, it has a graphic. And so I looked and I was like, this feels odd. This is switching. And then I went back and scrolled up and looked at my question and I said, oh, I typed in what are some activities to solicit feedback. So then I went back and typed in what are some brain-based activities to solicit feedback? And I got the answers that you're about to hear. Why is this important? This is important because there is information that you use that isn't connected to the brain. And that list had, I think it had 12 things to do with it. And now we have a list of 7. Wait, is it 7 or 8? Give me a second. It's 7. So the list went from 12 to 7, and it went from very generic things for you to do to very specific brain-related things for you to do. So I'm telling you, I'm suggesting that now, from now on, when you go forward and you're looking something up, throw brain in there, and you're going to get a different response because people are literally operating and doing these things that they've researched without the connectivity to the brain. And so if you feel disconnected from your brain, that's why. Eureka. How can you make the connection? You walk around with this brain all day long. We found out that it's the command center yesterday from a coaching perspective, and literally not making the connection to the brain. So ChatGPT, because I did not, even though I was already in a brain chat, didn't make the connection because I didn't connect it. So then I had to go back and say, wait a minute. I want this information to be connected to the brain. So people say you can cheat and use Chat GPT. I'm like, it's garbage in, garbage out. But that is interesting from a search perspective that if you don't make the connection to your brain, then you won't make the connection to your brain, and neither will Chat GPT. So going forward, everything that I search is going to have brain in it. How is this connected to the brain? How is this connected to the brain? How is this? What regions? What part? That makes sense, right? So if you don't say brain, it's not going to connect. And so when I tell you that you have the ability to create new neural pathways, you're probably thinking, how the hell I'm going to do that? How I'm going to connect that? When everything I've been doing for my whole life has not been connected to my brain. It's been connected to people, because the thing that was even more interesting was the 12 things that was there was people related. So it was telling you all these things to solicit feedback activities for people instead of your brain. So that's what's happening, is we have been hardwired for negativity bias, and then we have been programmed for people. So everything we do is for another person or ourselves, but not our brain. So that's why it's very challenging for you neurologically to process me saying brain. Let's think about that. It's 13 people on this live right now. Some of these people are new. When I say brain, 13 people, what are you thinking? Your brain. You had that. Your brain is the command center for your life. You're buffering. You got a nice little, get the buffering emoji out, because you can't connect it, because for your entire life, everything that you have been taught is either for a higher power or for people, but not for your brain, even though you're using your brain for all of that. Absolutely true. We function automatically and take the brain for granted because you were not taught to value your brain. You value your money, your house, your clothes, your possessions more than your brain. You value your heart, your liver, your lungs, and all of that before your brain, which is the command center for all of that. For all of it. The brain is the command center, and it is last on the fucking list. You don't give it water. You don't give it the right amount of food. You don't give it resources. You don't read. You don't write, and you ain't arithmeticking, nothing. But you want this brain to engage in everything else that you do all day long, and y'all disconnected. Don't put the phone cord in the charger in your phone in the phone, and don't plug it to the wall. You ain't got no power. You got zero power. That bad boy gonna get the zero and you're gonna be done. But that's what you're doing. You walking around with the phone cord plugged into the phone and the phone ain't plugged into the wall. And you trying to figure out why you ain't even got the Wi-Fi on or the data. And you trying to figure out how come you can't function. Because you're not using the phone properly. You don't have the data on. You don't have the Wi-Fi on. You don't have the phone. You're not powering it. These morning mental workouts, are you plugging into the power? Your brain, plug it in so you can get charged for the day, so you can use your working memory all day long. So that's why it seems so foreign. That's why it's like, what the fuck is she talking about? Because the connection ain't connecting. Now, if I said, let's use neuroscience for you to manifest a car, you would be all on it. But I said, let's use neuroplasticity and neurogenesis and neuroprobability for you to become your best. And you like, the fuck is you talking about? Best? I am my best. Look at this outfit. This shirt costs $700. I'm pulling up in the woo. I got the best zip code. I'm over here. I make the best red velvet anything. That's not even what I'm talking about. So you can't connect because the connection isn't there. So look at God, higher power in the universe, giving me what appeared to be an error. I could have just been, I searched wrong and went on about my business and got this information. But that was the light bulb moment right there. That was the penicillin. It's not connected. If you don't search brain, you ain't never going to get connected to it. Ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never. So you have to make the connection yourself. That's why it's personal accountability, because you're using your personal command center for you to become personally connected to your brain, you and yourself. You understand what I'm saying? You got to make the connection for it to connect. If you want your phone charged, you got to plug your phone into your power source. So if you want your brain to work, you got to plug in and get connected to your brain. Otherwise, what I'm saying is not going to register with you, because I'm not telling you how to get along with people. I'm telling you how to get along with yourself. I'm telling you have a personal relationship with the most important person in the world to you, which is you. Because then you can go off and make better connections with everybody else. It's not being said and done. And I said it, I'm like, brain need to be taught elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and even as adult. You still need to be going. Everybody goes to yoga classes and all these other meetings. Don't nobody go to continuous education brain. to make sure that your working memory is still working. You think about a car, you get your oil changed every 3,000 miles. You're not going to get your working memory checked. The doctor don't even check. I'm about to have my annual visit here in July. We don't, Dr. Gaddy and I don't talk about the brain, but we about to, because my last year I wasn't talking about it, but I am now. And so we're going to talk about that. What is happening with my brain? I got to go to the lady doctor and see what was happening with my hoo-ha too. Thank you, perimenopause. But we're going to talk about my brain there too. That's everybody. I'm 10 toes down on it because theirs isn't connecting. So if theirs isn't connecting, how is mine going to connect? So that search revealed to me yet another instance of why this work is so challenging for me, because the information is different. Light bulb moment. People can relate to this idea of connecting the brain and charging it regularly, because that's what's happening. That's why it's not working. It's not working. The unaccountable system does not work, which is why I've disconnected from it, because it doesn't work. It's not using this gray matter, use it or lose it, in order for you to become your best. You are not, those methods that are being taught to you currently are only going to get you to 70%. And they're just going to keep you right there, because the objective is to get along with other people. It's not for you all to become best, because you're not connected to the thing that leads to best. Okay, so what are some brain activities? We're looking at brain activities now, not just activities, to solicit feedback. So using the prefrontal cortex, the ACC, the insula, the amygdala, and the temporoparietal junction, here's what you can do. Number one is perspective taking. So you're going to perspective take, and you're going to practice it. And what you're going to be using is the temporoparietal junction, okay? So perspective taking, this is how we're going to get to soliciting feedback using the TPJ. So the activity is this. You role play scenarios when you imagine being the person giving you feedback. Role play scenarios when you imagine the person being the person giving you feedback. And here is the brain benefit to that. Strengthens your temporal parietal junction, which helps you say with empathy, which helps you with empathy and seeing through others' eyes, and is crucial for receiving meaningful feedback. So if you, let's say I'm asking Regina for feedback. If I sit and say, okay, I'm going to be Regina in this scenario. Okay. And then I say, okay, how will Regina want to receive what I'm asking her from a solicit feedback perspective? And so then I become Regina, and then I ask myself the questions as if I'm Regina. And then I say, okay, cool. This is how this should go. And so then what happens is now you are empathetic to the fact that Regina has to give me feedback, not constructive criticism, but feedback. And then it also allows you to have more meaningful feedback, because you've already role play. I'm Regina, and this is potentially what Regina might say. So when it comes time, number one, your nerves are going to be down. Number two, you're prepared and open to receive what Regina has to say, so that that feedback could be more meaningful. Because, and you be like, and I can't wait, and I wish she would say this. No, that's hijacked amygdala. Okay, that's this thing going left instead of using the insula. Okay, so you actually want to say, how is this going to play out? Regina likes coffee. I don't know if you like coffee, Regina, but no, let's say we're going to meet after yoga. So we go to yoga, and then after yoga, we're going to sit in the park, because we both live in warm climates, and we're going to look at the birds, and we'll have a conversation. So I sit down, and I say, okay, cool. Regina's going to have on something vibrant, colorful. She's going to say this, and she's got nice listening voice and everything else, and we're going to play that out, and that's how it should go. So then we go to yoga, we sit down, we have the conversation. Now I'm open to having it. So you're taking perspective ahead of time. All right, number two is mindful reflection. Mindful reflection, and you're going to be using the insula and the prefrontal cortex activation. That's what's going to happen. So this activity is spend 5 to 10 minutes writing about a recent situation. Thank you, Regina. Spend 5 to 10 minutes writing about a recent situation. And you're going to ask yourself these two questions. What did I do well, and what might others see differently? What did I do well, and what others might see differently? Now, this morning, because every time I look something up that fucking word journaling shows up. Journaling, 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 journaling. I hate that word. So this morning, higher power, God, universe said, just switch it to writing. Just switch it to writing. Just write. Because that's what we used to do back in the day. I just wrote my feelings down. Now I'm journaling. I have to have a book, have an old school piece of doggone spiral notebook paper that got ripped the hell out before we had the perforated edges. And I'm writing, and I'm writing, I'm writing. Printer paper and all kind of stuff. Just write it down. So instead of journaling, I'm just going to say write it down. So that's what you're going to do. And I've been saying write it down. Take a piece of paper, draw a line. So I do need to replace journaling, and I'm replacing it with writing as of today. So what did I do well? What might others see? And the benefit of this to your brain, because everything for me is, does my brain benefit from this? Does my brain benefit from this? Let me write that down. Because they have a new term out, it's called brain rot, but that's negativity bias. Personal accountability, positive thinking, think positive is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So does my brain benefit from this? And you can start asking yourself this question when you're doing things. So the brain benefit is that it engages the insula, which is self-awareness, and the prefrontal cortex, which is self-monitoring and learning for readiness purposes. And so personal accountability is about you becoming self-aware. It is about you becoming self-aware because your personality resides in the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And so in order for you to know who you are, you got to sit with yourself. You got to take yourself on dates. You got to talk to yourself. You have to quote yourself in order for you to get to know you and not the facade that you present to the rest of the world. You have to have a personal relationship with yourself and a personal relationship with your brain if you're going to become a bad mofo. That's just how it works, okay? I didn't make the rules up. Actually, yes, I did. But that's the point. So you're asking yourself those two questions. And an example is, I do this often. Too much if you would ask Nola. What might others see differently? So I'm always, and not from what people think of me, what people think of me. It's not that. It's me being on the other side. So I don't get so highfalutin on my little high horse that I'm not back down in reality to other people's perceptions. So sometimes I will get, because your perception is your reality, I will get off the live and I will think that I've had this moment, and I will check in with Nola, and Nola will say, the lives are the same every day. Some days I'm like, man, that live was phenomenal. She's like, it's pretty much, you give the information, your face really don't move that much, and there you go. So, yep, we got our information. Thank you very much. So I actually do that because I want to improve to make sure that you're getting what you need on a daily basis. So I am always constantly and continually assessing. If you go back and look at the first lives from January 19th, when I was figuring out Instagram Live and TikTok was down for dark for 20 hours versus the ones that you see today. And today is day 595 total going live. And I've been on YouTube Live every day since January 19th. So mindful reflection. Number 3. Cognitive reappraisal practice. So cognitive reappraisal practice, and we are just addressing this amazing amygdala. So amygdala regulation. In order for you to be personally accountable, in order for you to use your brain every day, you are going to have to regulate your amygdala because of negativity bias and the brain being hardwired for it. Every day, people are looking for fight, flight, freeze, or appease every single day. And so you have to regulate, put the amygdala in timeout, and use the insula, say, shut up, sit down, this ain't no threat. And the only way you can do that is if you are operating from your prefrontal cortex and using all of that. Okay, so what happens? This is the activity for you to do amygdala regulation. Reframe a past piece of difficult feedback using this prompt. So you're going to reframe it. You got some feedback difficult that was like, yeah, I don't want to process that. You're going to do this. What was the intent behind the message? What was the intent behind the message, and what value could I extract? So what was the intent behind this message, and what value could I extract? And when it is performance focused, it feels different, and you might not want to hear it, but it is going to make it better because it will come with a solution. Constructive criticism says, "You're a terrible speaker." That's it. Performance focused feedback says, You speak too fast, focus on the pause. Work on the pregnant pause. And the pregnant pause is when someone says, I'm pregnant, everybody pauses for a minute, right? So you need to slow down speaking. Here are some people who speak at a slower pentameter, and then send them some links. Now, might not like hearing that. Leon Lato told me about the pause. I mention him all the time because now I'm a better storyteller and I can go really, really fast with my speak, and then I can slow down. So took that feedback, said, okay, cool, got it. But I could be like, fuck you, Leon. You the fuck you talk about? You talk too damn slow. Speak up. You need to speak faster. Okay? If I'm talking too slow, you need to figure out how to listen faster. No, that's not how that works. So you're going to go back, and he said the pause. And then he continued on with my speech review, and I got it. Light bulb moment. So it worked. So that's what you're going to do. And then what happens with that, the benefits to the brain when you practice this amygdala regulation, it reduces the amygdala reactivity. So this defensiveness, come on, put them up, put them up, put them up, put them up. It supports emotional resilience. So your emotions need to be resilient. You can't just every time, oh, fuck you. And I used to be very hijacked amygdala. In my 20s, teens, 20s, forget about it. The amygdala was dragging me all over everywhere I went. So when you do that, and when you say, what was the intent behind the message? What value can I extract from that? And you actually do that, you're calming the amygdala down. And it's giving you emotional resilience for the next time you solicit feedback. Number 4, feedback visualization. So you're going to be using the ACC and the prefrontal cortex PFC activation. So it's feedback visualization. And here's the activity. Visualize yourself receiving performance-focused feedback calmly and openly. So you ain't gonna be like, yeah, go ahead and say it. I'm ready for you. Just say it. Just say it. No. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm ready. Arms open. You can sit down. Don't be standing up, raising up. Just like, yeah, okay, cool. All right. So yes, give me my feedback. And what happens is it activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, which is the conflict monitoring portion of region of your brain. And it also, for the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, to prepare for real-time openness and control under pressure. So you're sitting there, you're breathing calmly, you're letting the amygdala know, you're petting the amygdala, it's okay, amygdala, it's all right, we got this, okay, boo-boo, don't cry, don't be mad, we're going to benefit from this, I promise you this is going to be a good thing. And now there's no more pressure. And so you have just said, I'm getting ready to get performance-focused feedback. Okay. Number 5, curiosity drills. This is a boost for your prefrontal cortex. Curiosity drills. And the activity is this. Ask why, how, and what if. And I actually have a playlist of what if on my YouTube channel. So you ask these questions about your own habits or decisions, and then share your thoughts with a peer for feedback. Why, how, and what if questions about your own habits and or decisions, and then you share your thoughts with a peer for feedback. And what this does is this strengthens the executive function and primes the brain for learning from others. So I have had different scenarios. What if we do this? Regina did research with me on if we should do the Real Leader Brain as a 30-day challenge, because right now it's part of the Real Leader Resources membership. And so I said, well, what if we do that? And she said yes. And so we did it. We decided where is it actually going to go. So she gave me feedback. You need to do 1 to 2 PA challenges before you jump into the Real Leader Brain, because you have to prepare your brain for it. And that was a what if scenario. So that is an example of how that actually works. I'm curious. Nola's getting ready to do a beta testing for the listening 30-day challenge. So what if we did, because listening is so important when it comes to learning and communicating effectively, and a lot of people don't listen. So should this be its own 30-day challenge? We will be finding that out in the upcoming weeks. Okay, number 6 is active listening rounds. Active listening rounds. And so this involves the TPJ and the insula. And here is the activity. This is active listening rounds. It involves the TPJ and the insula. And here is the activity. Pair up and rotate giving and receiving feedback using reflective listening. Okay, so you're going to pair up with someone and you're going to rotate giving and receiving feedback, and you're going to say, Dr. Donna, what is reflective listening? Because I even learned about active listening. I've done reflective listening, just didn't know that this is what it was called. So here is reflective listening. It is a communications technique where the listener actively pays attention to the speaker, understands the message, and relates or paraphrases what they heard to confirm understanding and show empathy. So again, reflective listening, a communication technique where the listener actively pays attention to the speaker, understands their message, and then relates or paraphrases what they heard to confirm understanding and show empathy. And the reason why you do this is because it strengthens your social awareness and the ability to remain calm and present. So you all are listening to me, and then you can repeat back something that I've said to understand if this is what's actually happening. So I'm taking this in, I'm reflecting on what you're saying, and let me either summarize it or paraphrase it or provide input based upon what you said. So you're reflecting on what is taking place with regards to being able to understand, and then this will allow you to be able to receive feedback better. Number 7 is emotional labeling. Emotional labeling, and this is using the amygdala and the insula regulation. So it is emotional labeling. And the activity is this. After receiving feedback, pause and name your emotional reaction. I think this is amazing. I could have used this back in 1997. After receiving feedback, pause and name your emotional reaction. I feel tense. I feel disappointed. I feel curious. And as I mentioned, we use a feeling PDF that has the different categories and everything on it. So when you get it, pause and say, I feel threatened. I feel pissed off. What is this happening? And the reason why you want to do that, the benefit to the brain, is that this reduces amygdala activity and increases emotional intelligence via the insula activation. So the amygdala is like, what the fuck did they just say? And the insula is like, hold on, bro, sit down. That's not what's happening. Let's do our emotional intelligence and let's really just process what's taking place. So you acknowledge the feeling. And I've said this before, if you don't acknowledge the feeling in the moment, it's going to build up and blow up somewhere else and turn into Pompeii. So you have to say, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And what am I getting ready to do about it? And then the moment is over. It's an indication on your feelings dashboard. It comes up, you handle it, and now you can go off and do grand things. But if you let that feeling just simmer and fester, and now it's going to boil over and just explode. Pop the lid off, that thing is going to explode all over everybody. So you don't do that. So instead, you pause and you name the feeling. And then once you do that, the insula takes over. Thank you so much for amygdala for identifying this. Let me go ahead. Now we feel this. What am I feeling? What am I getting ready? Why am I feeling it? What am I feeling? And what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And what am I getting ready to do about it? And now you get the benefit of acknowledging those feelings, which helps with the emotional regulation. And then you don't pop off as somebody that you're asking for feedback from. Okay. And that is it for that. Then we'll talk about the benefits and roll on out of here. So what are the brain activities that you use? Number 1, you do perspective taking practice. So you're going to do some role play scenarios. Number 2, mindful reflection. Spend 5 to 10 minutes asking those 2 questions. What did I do well? And what might others see? Number 3, cognitive reappraisal practice, which you are going to regulate that doggone amygdala. You're going to reframe it by saying, what was the intent behind it and what value can I extract? Number 4 is feedback visualization. You're going to use the ACC and the prefrontal cortex. Visualize yourself receiving that feedback. Number 5, curiosity drills. Why, how, and what if? And that's giving your prefrontal cortex a boost. Number 6 is active listening rounds, where you're going to use the TPJ and the insula, and you're going to participate in reflective listening. And then number 7 is emotional labeling, and it is using the amygdala and the insula regulation. So you're going to say, as soon as it happens, amygdala is feeling hijacked. What is this I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this? And what I'm about to do about it? And then let the insula take over. So what questions do you have about the activities that you can participate in order to solicit feedback that are attached to the brain? So how do you use your brain and this principle of real leadership, solicit feedback, so that you can become a person that can benefit from the feedback and actually use it to become your best? If you have no questions, you can just go ahead and say no questions, and then we can move on to the benefits and get on up out of here for today. Por la way. So ... a brain, anything. Her name is Woman. Thank you, Regina. I see your ... ellipse. Egyptian lover, baby. Egyptian lover. Noah has a brain up there. I like the brain emoji. I speak brain. I'm fluent in it. No, I'm at the mid-level. It's mid. And as you all are typing, here's what I feel too. I feel like as I learn, the more I learn about the brain and really start thinking about my brain, what's happening is there is this separation from people. And so what I believe is taking place neurologically is that people are saying, but if I start using my brain, then I'm not going to be able to talk to people no more. I feel that myself, and I get that. But you'll start talking to people who actually use their brain. So you'll make a different connection. And then when you connect with yourself and your brain, you'll find that you don't need to talk to as many people, and you don't need to do as many people things as you did before, because you have this fullness, this fulfillment that's taking place. So where you used to go to other people for feelings and resources and learning and everything else, you'll go within. And so there is going to be this separation, this additional growth that's taking place. Regina said, love the brain-based activities for soliciting feedback. Really appreciated activities for the amygdala. And I appreciate you saying that, Regina. And we know you've named your amygdala. And you can name your amygdala whatever you want. And I think it's a good thing to do. So you could say, hey, Sarah, shut up. Okay, we're not doing that right now. Give it give it a name and say it's got its own personality. So go ahead and name your amygdala. But what happens is when you regulate the amygdala, it actually decreases the brain fog. So you can actually get to the frontal lobe. You can start using the brain for what it was designed to do. So when you can give the amygdala something to do to start going back to just amygdalaing instead of the fight, flight, freeze, or appease, where is the saber-toothed tiger, you do end up having a better connection and a better existence with your brain. So I do believe, and this is just a what if, because I'm using that, what if when people start actually making the connection with their brain and they disconnect from other people, what does that look like? What if people did it? And what I believe is going to take place, and this is purely theory, hypothesis, is that people will stop being people dependent. Does that make sense? You won't be looking for love in all the wrong places. This other person won't be responsible for you. This other person will not be responsible for you. You will be responsible for you because I only work with adults. You will be responsible for you. And that's it. So something I'm considering and thinking about. And then Nola, what did you have? Or was that you saying the brain is clear? It's just a thought. And I'm saying I'm having that experience myself. So I believe that this will happen for other people as well. And so you won't need people, because then people won't be disappointing you. People won't be living up to your expectations that you have for them in your head, because they somehow owe you something that you can't actually give to yourself, or you believe is impossible. You have 86 billion neurons. It will be more peaceful interactions. That's what I believe will take place. It's taking place for me in my life, and that's why I'm saying this. Nola, are you typing? Okay, there we go. I learned that feedback uses a lot of different parts of the brain. Got it. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so what are the brain benefits to soliciting feedback? Because why would I tell you to do all this if you and your brain couldn't benefit? That would make no sense, right? So soliciting feedback isn't just a leadership or communication skill. It actually creates measurable benefits for your brain. So it's strengthening areas that are responsible for emotional control. We're going to get that amygdala in check, and learning and self-awareness. So number one, it strengthens the prefrontal cortex. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex. So the benefit is that it improves your decision-making, planning, and executive function. So it improves your decision-making, planning, and executive function. And what's the primary thing that's located in the executive function? Your working memory. Yes. So it is going to improve planning, decision-making, and executive function. Why, you ask, Nola? Great question. Because asking for feedback requires reflection, regulation, and future-oriented thinking, all core functions of the prefrontal cortex. Number two, it enhances neuroplasticity. What? It enhances neuroplasticity. So here is the benefit. It encourages brain growth by forming new neural pathways. You're going to get some new neural pathways from soliciting feedback. Why? Because they're going to tell you something new to do. So why? Because feedback introduces new perspectives, and it challenges your assumptions, prompting the brain to adapt and rewire automatically. So I was like, people lazy, they suck. That's why they're not going to hold themselves personally accountable. And then I discovered, oh my God, it's in the brain. What? And now look where we are from all the way from September last year to October, all of that. So look how many new neural pathways that I have been able to create since October of 2024. We're in June of 2025. Hundreds of videos, hundreds of lives, thousands of pieces of information, tidbits, and all of these other things from me asking for feedback. And sometimes you ask yourself for feedback. Sometimes you ask higher power, universe, and God, your higher power. If you don't believe in a higher power, just yourself, you yourself personally. And then here you come with some new neural pathways. I know I got some new neural pathways. Number three, it reduces amygdala reactivity. Again, calming the amygdala down. You're going to solicit feedback, and that's going to reduce your amygdala's reaction time. So the benefit is that it builds emotional resilience, and it reduces fear-based responses, because the amygdala is like, nah, and then insulin says, listen, calm down. It's not what we're about to do here, okay? We're going to identify what you're feeling, but then we're going to go and do something better, okay? So when you regularly face critique or feedback with intention, the amygdala becomes less reactive, making it easier to stay calm and open. So the more you solicit feedback, the more it regulates the amygdala, and then it just learns how to stay calm and stop reacting. So it responds instead of reacting. Number four, it activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. And the benefit is this. Number four, activates the ACC. So the benefit is this. It increases your ability to recognize errors and improve performance. It increases your ability to recognize errors and improve performance. Why? because soliciting feedback helps your brain detect mismatches between your actions and your goal, which is the ACC's role. So it's going to help you. This doesn't match. We did the yes or no challenge. I was like, something is not right with this. This doesn't match. My objective is for people to learn how to say no 9 times out of 10, and this isn't working. And now we have the PA challenge from that, which is totally different because it's wiring the brain. This time last year, I didn't know about wiring. I knew about neuroplasticity, but not to the point to teach it and make the connection between the principles of real leadership and personal accountability. So now you're actually doing what you need to do. Number 5 is it boosts your insular cortex activities. It boosts your insular cortex activities. So the benefit is to improve self-awareness and emotional insight. Personal accountability. Personal accountability. That means you have to be self-aware in order to hold yourself personally accountable. Why? Because receiving feedback helps you tune into your internal reactions and align them with how others perceive you. So because you are self-aware, now you can align them with how others see you. I've always been a person with a big, kind heart, but because of my external demeanor from having to fight and flight in the hood, it came across as this, you can't tell her nothing. You can't. I'm like, but I'm really a teddy bear. I'm really a teddy bear. I'm not a grizzly bear. I'm a teddy bear. But because of that, it allows you to become more personally aware so that who you are on the outside matches, inside matches, and now that people can actually see that. Number 6, it improves your social cognition. It improves your social cognition, which is your temporal parietal junction, TBJ. So the benefits are that it makes you move more empathetic and socially intelligent. It makes you move more empathetic. It makes you more empathetic and socially intelligent. And why is this? Because it's taken in others' perspectives and it strengthens your temporal parietal junction, which helps with understanding intentions and building trust. So basically what happens is I was very bad at small talk. I really didn't interact with people. It was not something that I did. But because I learned to improve that, it allowed me to be able to be more empathetic, more socially intelligent. And as a result, I have been able to establish trust with other people to the point where established trust is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Number 7 is it increases your dopamine and your learning empowerment. Here we go again, getting some natural dopamine. It increases dopamine and your learning empowerment. And so the benefits is that it boosts rewards sensitivity and your empowerment to grow. So you ask for feedback, you get some feedback, you've learned about it. The dopamine says, we like that, go back and do that again. And it's a cycle again and again and again. So you can get natural dopamine. You do not have to watch something. I got my dopamine for the day. And so why does this work? Because positive or constructive feedback can trigger dopamine release, reinforcing the learning process. So you ask for feedback again, as I mentioned, you get it, you learn something, dopamine is released, and you come back and do it again, and you keep doing it. And now the amygdala is calmed down and you have this nice little natural boost of dopamine that you didn't need this external big giant concert thing that had to take place. And then number 8, and this is the last one, it trains metacognition. And I did not know what metacognition is, and so I'm assuming you didn't either. So here it is. Metacognition. This is the process of thinking about one's own thinking, often described as awareness and understanding of your own cognitive processes. So that was a mouthful. The process of thinking about one's own thinking, often described as awareness and understanding of your own cognitive processes. I actually have a post that says, think about what you think about. Think about what you think about. So that's metacognition. Now, what this does, the benefit to this is that it sharpens your ability to think about your thinking. So you are sharpening your thinking. What you doing? I'm sharpening my thinking. And so why does this happen? Because requesting feedback invites you to step outside yourself, reflect on your performance, and recalibrate. So by thinking about your thinking, it's almost like you've seen those programs where you're looking at yourself, you pop out of yourself and you look down at yourself. You're thinking about your thinking. So in summary, feedback is the gift that keeps on giving the brain what it needs for you to succeed. And I'll summarize that. If you have questions you need me to repeat, I'm getting ready to repeat them. But it is, what are the benefits to soliciting feedback? Number one, it strengthens your prefrontal cortex. Number two, it enhances neuroplasticity. And if we stop right there, that's winner, chicken dinner. Number three, well, up to number three, reduces the amygdala reactivity. It reduces it so the amygdala is not popping off and acting like crazy cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Number four, it activates the anterior cingulate cortex. Number five, it boosts your insular cortex activity. Number six, it improves your social cognition by using the temporal parietal junction. It increases, number seven is it increases dopamine and learning empowerment. And then number eight, it trains your metacognition. Think about what you think about. So what questions do you have, if any? And we are getting ready to wrap this up with our working memory number for the day and our 2 questions for today. And again, if you are thinking, let me know. Let me know. No questions. Regina has requested number 2. So number 2 is that it enhances neuroplasticity. Enhances neuroplasticity. The benefit is that encourages brain growth by forming new neural pathways. Encourages brain growth by forming new neural pathways. And why? Because feedback introduces new perspectives that challenge your assumptions, prompting the brain to adapt and rewire. Feedback, why? Feedback introduces new perspectives that challenge your assumptions, prompting the brain to adapt and rewire. And then let me know if you have it. My nose is itching. All right. So we are ready for our working memory activity. For those of you visiting for the first time, working memory is what you use all day long. You use it dozens, if not hundreds of times every hour that you are awake. Every hour that you are awake, every day that you are awake. So this process is, I give you 4 numbers. You take those individual numbers and you add the number 3 to those numbers, and then the answer you repeat backwards. I give you 4 numbers. You add the number 3 to each individual number, and then your answer is saying that result backwards. Okay, so today's number is 2315. 2315. 2315. Go ahead. Got it. Eight, 4, 6, 5. Good morning, Lola, if I didn't say that to you already. 8, 4, 6, 5. So you just have to flip it, Lola, and then it's 8, 4, 6, 5. So the back half. So you got the numbers correct, but then you say it 8, 4, 6, 5. And that is how you work your working memory. It's a quick exercise that you can do every day throughout your day just to get the working memory functioning at a level. And I've committed to doing this once a day because we need to do it once a day in order for it to stick. And then you will be able to get faster and faster. My recommendation is that you use numbers 0 through 6 when you're first starting to do this so that you can get accustomed to the actual process. While I reveal the results of the poll question, go ahead and answer your 2 questions for today, which is, what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? Okay, have a great one, Regina. Yes, Jessica, I understand that. And it is. And sometimes your working memory can store between 4 to 7 things at the same time. So if you just get to 2, that just shows that you need to strengthen your working memory. So what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? I learned metacognition. And I also learned about myself that I am pulling away from people who focus just on people things and not on their brain. And now let me reveal the poll results. All right, poll results are in. And it is, does soliciting feedback benefit the brain? 12 people voted. 83% said yes. 16% said no. I don't even understand why that is happening. And I can't move it out the way. All right. Jessica said, I'm learning the working memory is actually harder than people think, and I'm accepting feedback more positively. Yes, so the working memory is what you use all day long. As I mentioned, you're using it dozens, if not hundreds of times per hour every day that you're awake. So that's a 16 to 18-hour day, and you're using it. So that's hundreds of times that it is being used, but if it's not a lot there, then it's not a lot that's going to be taking place. So if you find that you're getting to the end of your day and nothing really worked, you have a weak ass working memory. And the only way to improve your working memory is to learn more. That's how you do it. You get in more information, and then it helps with problem solving. You use the 74 principles of real leadership. You hold yourself personally accountable, and everything about your brain starts to function properly. That's how that goes. That's how that happens. Okay. Once again, nothing that I'm saying is going to stick unless you actually start to use your brain in a targeted way. And you can start by going to the website, theturnarounddoctor.com, and sign up for a PA challenge. That's the first challenge that you need, because 99% of the time you got a weak ass working memory, and none of the rest of this stuff is going to work until you get your brain ready and open to be able to do that. That's not why you forget what you were doing. That's a different part of the brain. So the working memory is for how you function all day long. It's your problem solving, your logic, your reasoning, how you perform tasks. So if you get to the end, you have a list of things to do for the day and none of it got done, that's because of your working memory. So you couldn't prioritize the work. So let's say you have 5 things to do and you can't figure out which thing to do first. Your working memory helps you prioritize the work in order for you to get things done. So it's your decision making. If you're standing in a grocery store and you can't choose between Choosy Moms, Choose Jif, and what's the other one? I forgot the name of another peanut butter. Let's use potato chips. Let's say you can't decide if you're going to get barbecue chips or plain chips, and you're going back and forth. The decision making process from your working memory will say, well, I want plain. You can look at the back, look at the ingredients, look at the sodium count, but it helps you. Yes, Skippy and Jif. So there you have it. So it's helping with all of your decision making. It's helping with your long-term memory. If you need to, let's say you haven't baked a cake in a year and now it's time to bake the cake. It's going to go in your hippocampus, grab your memory, and grab all the ingredients. Now you go to the store, you got to pick up all the ingredients for the cake that you're going to bake, and then go home. That skill set to bake the cake, to drive to the store, to do all of that. It's really how you function all day long. Yes, and then just when Nola finishes, then we're gonna wrap up. So again, some of the things that I'm saying, the brain is attempting to try to process it, but as I mentioned midway through the live, you're not connected to your brain in a way that you totally understand how it functions. So you're gonna put it through your people lens instead of through your brain lens. So if it makes people sense, then it makes sense. Because remember, the hippocampus is going to say, what do I already know? How can I connect this to something that I already know? But how, that's not going to work because this is new information. Yeah, trauma can affect everything in the brain because trauma is here. Trauma is coming from a hijacked amygdala. Remember, trauma is associated with fight, flight, freeze, or peace. So if it feels like, hey, the amygdala is like, hold up, we had that experience before. Stop, don't go there. It's going to cut off. So the amygdala is here saying stop, fight, or flight. And then you have the prefrontal cortex up here where your working memory is in the executive function of your brain. It's up here. So it cuts off access and says, we got to go seek safety. So cortisol is a hormone, a stress hormone that gets released into the brain. It comes up here and starts giving you brain fog. So you shut off all logic, access to your logic. You don't have access to it. So now you're not thinking clearly or nothing because you want safety. You're trying to seek safety and comfort. Noah said, I said because feedback helps you improve. So by default, it helps your brain. Okay, got it. All right. So yes. Yes, trauma does impact it. And so I understand. And Jessica, were you on the Working Memory Live? Because I think if you weren't there, I can't remember. But if you were on the Working Memory Live, go back a couple days ago and rewatch that. And that will give you a better understanding of what the working memory actually is and how you use it to navigate your day. It might be an unfamiliar concept. And I get that because we don't really talk about it, and we do. We still don't say, hey, you using this thing all the time. People present it as it's something temporary. You use it and you move on. But it's being used throughout your entire day. You just might not be doing that one function all day long. You're not going to be cooking all day long. You're not going to be problem solving all day long, hopefully. But when you do it, when you skip from one task to the next, that is your working memory that's allowing you to function throughout your day. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time for yourself to learn more about your brain, because it is amazing. It is the central command unit. It is the command center for your life. And I know that probably is challenging for you. Yes, because that's going to help you. And I feel you trying to quantify it, but that whole live was about neuropability and your working memory. So to give you a foundation, and then from there, you'll start to use it more. And that's part of the reason why doing the numbers is not clicking, because the working memory isn't highly functioning as it can be. But the good news is that it can start being much more heavily engaged. And by doing all of these things, you are increasing your working memory. So it's strengthening your mind. So here's what I will say. Thank you for taking the time out of your day and your life to learn more about your brain. This is for you. It is not for me. It's actually for you, so that you can start to have a better existence day in and day out. I can't stress that enough. Whatever shit show situation you are experiencing, or 70%, so it might not be bad, but it's not best, you actually have the ability to change that. You can change your life when you use your brain and make the connection yourself. But this is something that you have to do. That's why I'm saying you're doing this for you. You're not doing it for me. My neural pathways are connected. I'm neuroabilitying the shit out of real leadership and personal accountability. But that's not going to do anything for you. I'm teaching you how to do it, Your role in this is to actually do what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to be in a 30-day challenge. Your brain is not going to change on your own. You are where you are because of the brain that you currently have. So it's not going to change. It isn't. You can listen to the lives all day. Nothing's going to change. It's going to improve, but it's not going to get the best. You're not going to get the full capacity. My pleasure. So the point is, I know this feels foreign to you. It's supposed to, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I can't explain how clear your brain is going to feel. It's like being pregnant. Everybody has a different experience. Having given birth, everybody has a different experience. Even when you taste the same food, it tastes differently. So the only way that you're going to know how personal accountability feels is to sign up for a 30-day challenge and do it. That's the only way you're going to be able to say, this is what my life was like before I was holding myself personally accountable, and this is what my life is like after. Individual results are going to vary, but being on the lives isn't enough. It is not. This is something that you have to do in order for you to become personally accountable. So go to the website, turnarounddoctor.com, and sign up for your first PA challenge and start to learn how to use your brain. And I will be saying this every day because doing just this one thing is not going to do it. It's not. If you got to pick one, and I've said this, you'd be better off being in a personal accountability challenge, because that is how you get the neural pathways. That's how you create neuropability, neuroplasticity. That's the how. This is the this is the information portion, but that's the implementation portion. So you get all this information, but if you don't implement it, it's just sitting in a notebook somewhere or kind of dormant in your brain until you don't recall it and you can't use it. So this is information. The PA challenge is implementation, and they go together like salt and pepper and peanut butter and jelly. So thank you for your time today. You all go off and have a sensational Saturday. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Higher power, God, and the universe willing. Same time, same place, safe space. You all go off and have an amazing day. Take care.